Hey guys, it's Baban, and I mentioned that I might do a tutorial on this in the speed paint of this that I did. I'll put a link to that at the end, but anyway, I wanted to mention about paintings. Now, a lot of people think, oh, it's cool to go and try and do everything on one layer. Like, ooh, I did one layer painting. Like, everyone thinks they're proper smart when they can say that. But there's like other quicker ways that have other benefits, and I just want to show you this other way. So what I started off with is basically this one layer that's sort of slapping down the colours and trying to figure out what I'm going for. But because there's so many layers and so much stuff going on, while I'd be cleaning it up, I'd have to keep going and making everything perfect, and there's just huge blocks to fill in. So I don't want to have to be painting something and maybe then wanting to change it a little bit and then having to go and clean up like all these edges and making them perfect, because not every time that you go and put something down is it going to be perfect the first time. You might want to go and change it a little bit after you've changed something else in the painting. So I start off like this, doing a bit of a sloppy mess to figure out where I want to go, and I'll show you how I started this in a different way that makes it quicker and easier to do. In the sketch you can see I've got all these like different set out layers, and it's going to be a lot easier rather than slapping down the paint and trying to do it all on one layer. It's going to be easier to pick them out into their own separate layers and make it so that I can paint them separately and block in the main colour separately. So what I've done is picked out the layers, seeing what I can separate, how it's going to be easier, what stuff overlaps with other things. So I've got like the sky as one layer, this mountain as one layer, these mountains as the layer over that, trees behind it, the architecture here, the ground plane, and then I've got all the guardians and all the rubble and all the little details on their own layer, and then I've got the horse and Link on their own layer. So after separating out all the layers and blocking them in, I had this, which every colour's on a separate layer and they're all different greys so that I can see them apart. And then I filled them in, and so I've got all my colours set out. These are the base colours that I'm using for the correct colour of each layer, each thing that's in each layer. You can see, especially on Link and the horse, they're flat colours. Not so much with the background, because I went and I painted those. But anyway, if I go and fill these in, so what they're about, say this colour. But this technique I want to explain, you can see I've got this layer here, and that's foreground mountains. So what you do with this technique is block in the colour of whatever you want, and then once you've got this all blocked in one colour, you can take your selection wand and just go and select everything like this. Okay, so now I've got that selected. The way you should do this is make a new layer over the top of it and call it foreground mountains shading. Okay, so you've got the area selected, and you can always paint it on the layer that you've set down. I think it depends how much you've got going on. Like with Link, I'll explain about this after actually. With Link, because I've got a few different colours going on, I don't want to select the whole block of it. So I need a separate layer for all the different little bits that I'm going to make selections of. But yeah, you can either do it like this, where you block the layer down, block the shape out, and then you can select it and you can get rid of the selection border so that it's not confusing how it looks. Let's pick a colour, and because it's selected, I'll pick a darker colour. I can paint on it and it won't go outside the boundaries of where this shape is. And I can, you know, paint in whatever I want and it'll stay in the shape. And I'll deselect it. Now, because I've got two separate layers for this, I've got the base colour that I've blocked in. I've got a separate layer for the shading. So if I had another colour in here, I'd be able to select that and then just paint on that colour. Like I say, what I did with this was set the transparency lock once I'd drawn it, put transparency lock on, and you'll be able to find that in whatever art program you're using. Just try googling it if you can't find it, but it's usually like a little lock with a transparency thing. Paint over this, paint a little bit on it, and when I do this, it's on the same layer, but it's staying within the boundaries. If it's just one big lump of something like this and it's on its own, then it's pretty easy to use the transparency lock. So we'll have a look at the horse. Okay, so for the horse, I've blocked out the shape. I blocked it all out in one colour first. So we was all this grey colour, and then I, from the sketch, blocked out all the shapes in different colours. And these are just the flat colours, so all the flat colours are on this horse layer. And I've transparency locked it, even though I don't really need to, but the way I've done this, there's the shading. The shading is on a separate layer and it's, you know, it's just all these different colours. But because there's patches on the horse, if I get rid of that, you can see where all these different colours are, and it keeps the same shape of all these patches, and I don't need to worry about going over them and fixing up all the little lines, little shapes. So I've got, let's go back to this where it's all one flat colour. What I'm going to do again is, let's select all of this colour and we'll make multiple selections so that it covers all of him. All these little spots in between the awkward patterns, we'll just select a bunch of those. And now that that's selected, I'll get rid of the selection border so it's not messy looking. I'll make a new layer, select my colour, and this way I can paint it on. Paint it on like this and it'll go around all these awkward patterns. It'll just go on the black, so it's just the reaction of the light hitting the black. And in all these little awkward shapes, it's not affecting the white. Okay, so that's blocked in. So the shading on the black's done. And then what I'll do, I can select all the little patches of white all around all the awkward shapes, all these little spots. Bring that layer back up and we'll just select a nice lighter colour for this white. Well, it's not a good colour. Here we go. How the light's reacting to this white colour. Doesn't want to paint on this layer. And just paint that on. And paint it on so that it lines up with where all the other shading on the black is. There we go. And you can see, because I've got this, if I ever want to go and change something, because I've got the selection on the white areas now, if I'm not happy with this shading on the black, all I need to do is deselect, go onto the base colours layer, and I can just reselect the black areas. And let's pick a bit of a lighter colour maybe. I can do this again, select a different colour, and I can just keep painting within these boundaries onto the area that I want. And this is probably like the tidiest and easiest way to paint, because like I say, it's not all on one layer, it's not messy. You don't need to think that you need to paint on one layer just because it sounds impressive. This is like how I know a few professional people do this, at least. I'm pretty sure loads of professional people do this, because it is so quick and clean and easy, and it's simple to change stuff. Like if the base colours aren't right, you can just go and fill those back in because you've got all the flats here. It's easy to just go and change maybe one colour that's a bit off. You don't need to repaint the whole thing. And yeah, so we've got our base colours and shading over the top. Now I'll quickly put a bit of shading on his head just so it's a bit easier to see everything overall, and you can see how quick this is as well. I'll just get rid of the selection border because it's annoying. See, easily I can just do this straight away and not have to worry about the borders, and not have to worry about messing up my base colours or the base shape. Nothing's getting distorted out of shape while I'm painting. And once you've done this, I mean, it doesn't have to be really, really clean. You can still make it really painty. It's just a case of setting the base colours down and then adding whatever you want on top of it. And we'll give the hair a little bit of shine. And it's pretty good for when you've got like a lot of little details. You can see on the saddle there's quite a bit going on, but it's easy to just select all the different colours, different spots, and fill everything in. Like you can see on the finished one, it was easy for me to just select a colour and go and fill it in whatever colour I needed for the shading. And it's the same thing I did for Link. If I select these mountains again, I can always make one layer over the top, maybe add a bit of a gradient if I want a bit of a gradient underneath my painting, or a gradient as the base colour. But if I were to put it straight onto the flats, then I wouldn't be able to select it. So by keeping the gradient as a separate layer, you can still select this shape. And then over the top, pick a different colour, keep the gradient on, pick a different colour, and then I can paint over it, and then as the base colour I've got a nice gradient going on. And these colours don't fit, but you can basically see what's going on, just making it a bit lighter so you can see. Another thing I wanted to mention, this is very much an easier approach to go through if you want outlines like this, like backlit outlines, because once you've got the shape of something, I've got the shape of the horse, I've got the base for the horse, all I need to do is, you know, use the selection, select around it, change the area scaling, and it'll select all the area around it, and then I can fill in the shape behind it and get the shape that's a bit of like an edge all the way around everything. And I guess that's useful for stickers and stuff, and maybe more cartoony things if you like a bit of a rim light around everything, which I tend to. It's just a much easier way to do that rather than having to go and paint everything in, especially if you want a crisper look. This is definitely better for a crisper look. If you do want more painted style, then there's nothing wrong with doing a one layer painting or like a few layers. But this is much quicker and easier to get a nice, crisp, clean looking painting. Especially if you've got a lot of layers going on. But yeah, this is the sort of thing people use in concept art because it's easy to go and change the flat colours that you've got. If I didn't like... Get rid of the shading. If I didn't like this particular... If I didn't like this particular brown for Link's shield, say I want it to be more metallic looking, let's pick that kind of colour, and because I've made this so sharp, the flat colours are so sharp, I can just go onto the flats layer, fill in this colour. I can, now that I've got that colour, you can see it changes the way the shield looks a little bit. But if I don't like the shading on top of it either, I can select it and just delete the shading on the shield. And then I can go and pick some different shading colours and basically repaint it without affecting anything else. We'll put a bit of a couple of scratches on it. There we go. And see, I can draw shapes, and I don't need to worry about where it's overlapping, so it's not controlling how far I can move. Like, you know when you get to the edge of the page and you try and squash everything in? When you're painting on one layer, you can sort of try and squash stuff in because you've got to be careful to not go and overlap with all the other things that are going on in the painting. It just makes it a lot easier. Okay. There we go. Completely different shield, completely different colour. Okay, so let's try also. Let's try making the horse a completely different colour. I'll just do this quickly to show you. There we go. And the colours aren't great, but you can see straight away how easy it is just to tweak a colour if you just want to change it a little bit or make a completely different colour. Okay, anyway, yeah, I hope that helped. You don't need to do tons of like detail painting and worry about messing around with cleaning edges up constantly to make a good looking painting and to make a good looking painting quickly. Thanks for watching, I hope it helped. Thanks to Daviations on Twitter for doing some cute little fan art of me. Here's a link to the full speed paint of this so you can see the whole process of it from the sketch to the finished thing. Give us a like if this helped you. Thanks for watching, bye bye!